And as these panelists leave, I would just like to say a thank you to all of the crew, all of the support, all of the service people who put everything together for the last 2 days. So let's thank them. You know, I think most of us would agree that civilized behavior, perhaps civilization, is really about living under shared norms. What's acceptable? What's unacceptable behavior, rules, beliefs, values? But it's also how do you cope when others do not share your beliefs or values? And that gives you a certain resilience or a certain fragility. And we've seen that disinformation is intentional. This is not about making a mistake or a lapse or being lazy. This is about intent, malicious intent. It can be acute and tactical, or it can be chronic and corrosive and erode trust and everything that glues us together. It can pit us against one another. It can render us confused, apathetic, disengaged. It can whip up animosity to the point of violence, or it can make us totally withdraw in disgust. So I give you 4 words to sum up: rules, tools, schools, and fools. Rules. How do you decide between what is free speech and what is malicious disinformation? And who decides? And what rules should there be in posting social media, not only nationally, but perhaps internationally? Tools. We've seen the hope of detecting, blocking, countering as we enter a world of artificial intelligence. So there's some hope and tools. Schools, and you just heard it again. It's really important. It's really too late if you take people when they're already young adults and try to teach them critical thinking and scientific method and digital and media literacy. This has to be something that's baked into the earliest education. And fools. In the early 1990s, there was a man named MacArthur Wheeler outside of the town of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the United States, who robbed 2 banks the same day. He knew there were video cameras up, and he robbed the banks nonetheless. And on the 11 o'clock news, they posted the video, and they identified MacArthur Wheeler, and they went to his house, and they arrested him. And as the police were dragging him out, he shouted at them, "But I wore the juice." And they were completely baffled. And what he had meant was he had gone on the internet and he had seen that if you used lemon juice, you could do invisible writing. And so he rubbed it all over his face so the video cameras would not pick him up on the security cameras. A fool. Such a fool that 2 scientists named Dunning and Kruger named a whole thing Dunning-Kruger effect, which means people can be so stupid they don't know they're stupid. And for them, I would say, I have no solution. But for the rest of you, as a species, as you've seen in the last 2 days, we've got some things to overcome in terms of anachronistic, built-in bugs of wiring based on very powerful, important evolutionary forces. And we accept or we reject evidence based on largely identity, whether it confirms who we think we are and the world should be, or whether it somehow undermines that identity, much more than any sort of empirical or evidentiary approach. But what happens to civilization when we can no longer agree even on what constitutes evidence? And who adjudicates when we can't agree on who is a judge and who's a fake judge? So what happens to rule of law in those situations? and what happens when disinformation pulls us apart like that. But remember this, disinformation works best when we're willing participants, when we let it happen actively, or even just become passive observers. So I give you those four: rules, tools, schools, and fools. Thank you for your kind attention, and thank you to the Soufan Center. Just a reminder, at 6:30 in this room, a rare treat, Ali Soufan, for whom the Soufan Center is named, of course, will be speaking to HBKU students, global terrorism trends, and the role of education. Very timely, very important. Thank you all very much for your kind attention.